Roll VTR, 60 seconds live.
Stand by. Loading 1, 2, and effects 2. No, we're live at 60.
Out to the right. Rudy flush. Throws it down.
Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25. Uses it back to Wildcat.
30 seconds live.
Across the field to Dyson. He's got something. He's got something. He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. End zone. Touchdown. Tyson. There are no flags on the field. There's a long
In 3, 2.
What's your name, boy?
Hello everyone, this is Sean Harris, host of the Scoop Talk Show. Well, I must say, week 1 of the NFL on Sunday was in the books. Hell of a week, hell of a first week to start the NFL. Very exciting, a lot of impact in the games. 13 games was on tap. A few of them went, or majority of them went, I should say, down the wire. Hey, I got to start with Cincinnati and the Jets. That was a great game. Jets looked very strong in the first half. Cincinnati came back. They went kind of back and forth a little bit. But in the end, Cincinnati pulled off the victory 23-20 on a last-minute field goal. The Jets could have won it, but Nick Foles missed 2 of those crucial field goals that could have won the game and sealed the deal for New York. Hey, what can I say? My man Andy Dalton, 23 out of 30, 366 yards, a TD and a pick. I mean, he played outstanding. He did his thing. His wide receiver, A.J. Green, he had 12 receptions for 180 yards and a touchdown. That's the hookup in Cincinnati. They've been doing it since day one. They're going to probably end up keeping it going all season long. Over on the Jets side, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he played an outstanding game as well. He was 19 for 35, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 pick. He played a great game. Matt Forte, 22 carries, 96 yards. He did all he could muster up, but he couldn't get in the end zone. The second game I was watching was Green Bay and Jacksonville. That game was pretty good as well, too. It came down to the wire on a defensive stop by Green Bay's defense on the 4th and 1 to try to get Jacksonville not get the victory, and they ended up winning 27-23. Aaron Rodgers was outstanding in that game. He was 20 out of 34 for 199 yards, 2 TDs. Not bad for a first week for the veteran. Blake Bortles of Jacksonville, he played a great game too. He was 24 out of 39 for 320 yards, 1 TD and a pick. But he was sacked 3 times. 2 of those sacks was very crucial down the stretch of the game. But I thought that they both played outstanding, even though Green Bay won it 27-23. Another game I kept my eye on was the San Diego Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs. That game was a nail-biter, I tell you. They even went to overtime in that game. Shouldn't have to been that way, but it was. San Diego jumped out to a 24-3 lead to start the game. But KC comes back with 17 unanswered points, 8:15 mark of that second half to bring the game back up to 27-all. Kind of went back and forth in overtime, but in the end it was pulled off. Alex Smith got the game-winning TD on a 2-yard rushing TD. He ended up going 34 for 48 for 363 yards, 2 TDs, 1 rush and 1 throwing, and a pick. While Phillip Rivers was 25 for 36, 243 yards, and a touchdown. That was a good game. Danny Hayward of San Diego, he played outstanding as well. He had 16 carries at 89 yards, but he couldn't get in the end zone. His longest was 21 yards. And what can you say about my man Spencer Ware? He was doing his thing. He had 11 carries, 70 yards, 1 TD. His long was 14. And then on the receiving side of the football, he had 7 receptions for 129 yards. Outstanding work for Spencer Ware. He did great. Like I said, Kansas City pulled that off in overtime. 33-27 is the score. The other game I was looking at that I had my eye on pretty much of the day was the Chicago-Houston game. The Bears and the Texans. What can you say? Houston pulled that out 23-14. They outscored Chicago 6-0 in the last minute 30 of that game when the game was tied at 14-all on 2 field goals by the kicker. Jay Cutler for Chicago, he ended up 16 out of 29 with 216 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, whereas Brock Osweiler, he went 22 of 35, 231 yards, 2 TDs and a pick in his debut in Houston. Alshon Jeffries of Chicago in receiving, he had 4 receptions, 105 yards, but he couldn't get into the end zone, and his long was 54 yards. Lamar Miller in receiving, he had 4 receptions for just 11 yards. But some of those catches he made was pretty impactful because he was also doing it on the rushing side of the football too as well. He had 28 carries for 106 yards. His long was 12. So he was kind of like utilizing both departments. Will Fuller, he had 5 receptions, 107 yards and a TD. His long was 35 on the catch. Houston went on to win anyway, 23-14. What can you say about the Oakland Raiders? Man, they never let up. They never gave up against a very, very tough New Orleans team. Drew Brees, of course, everybody knows, restructured his contract. So he signed a 1-year deal, of course. But the Raiders came out on top, 35-34. Derek Carr, he was 24 for 38, 319 yards and a touchdown. Drew Brees, he was outstanding as always, 28 out of 42, 423 yards, 4 TDs. I mean, 4. The guy had 4 touchdowns. What can you say about that? Outstanding. Drew Brees ain't a young man neither, but he's still on top of his game. The Raiders won that game after scoring the touchdown from David Carr to Michael Crabtree, and then they converted the 2-point conversion to put them ahead for the victory. Amari Cooper in receiving department, he had 6 receptions for 137 yards, but he couldn't get into the end zone. His long was 43. Brandon Cooks, he did pretty good. He had 1 carry for 11 yards, the only carry of the game, but his standout play was 6 receptions for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns, along with Willie Snead had 9 receptions to lead the team with 172 yards and 1 touchdown. Brandon Cooks' long catch was 98 yards from Drew Brees. But the Raiders still went on to win anyway, 35-34. Congratulations to the Raiders. The Dallas Cowboys game, New York Giants game, I thought was going to be showcased on television, but it wasn't. I wanted to see that game. I wanted to see what Dak Prescott can do. But the Cowboys ended up losing down the stretch. Time running out. Their wide receiver could not get out of bounds. He was trying to go for the first down, but instead he wasn't thinking about what he should have done, and it cost the Cowboys the game. Giants went on to win 20-19. Eli Manning, he played outstanding in that game. He was 19 out of 28 for 207 yards. He had 3 TDs and 1 pick. Dak Prescott in his debut, very impressive. 25 for 45, 227 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. Maybe in game 2 against Washington, he'll pull something out of to get his first touchdown in the league. Rashad Jennings, as always, tough runner. He had 18 carries for 75 yards, but he couldn't get in the end zone. And Ezekiel Elliott, in his debut as a Cowboy, he had 20 carries, 51 yards, and 1 touchdown. Very good for Ezekiel Elliott. Receiving-wise, really wasn't so much because it was pretty much of a defensive game with Dallas and New York like it always is. It's not really a gunslinging show. Odom Beckham Jr., he had 4 receptions to lead the Giants for 73 yards, but couldn't get in the end zone. Tight end Jason Witten for the Cowboys had 9 receptions, 66 yards, but he also couldn't get in the end zone. Giants went on to beat Dallas anyway, 20-19. Now, my sleeper game of the week got to be the Detroit Lions and the Indianapolis Colts. When these two teams get together, oh, baby, you better watch out because it's going to be a good one.
Everybody in the audience got to get ready for World War III.
They went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, this game was just crazy.
Stafford. What? Stafford. What? Stafford. What?
I mean, absolutely crazy. Lions jumped out on top 21-3. Colts come back and scored to get close within the game. And then down the stretch, a big missed extra point kick by Matt Prater put the Lions only up by 6. And with time winding down, Luck, as always, found his man, got it into the end zone, and they went on to tie the game. But down the stretch, the Lions defense held up. They went on to beat Indianapolis Colts, of course, with a 2-point safety, 39-35. Now, mind you, the Lions is playing with no Calvin Johnson, because after all, he retired last year. He was done. Stafford coming back after missing the remaining 9 games of the season due to an injury. They have no running game. But I tell you what, though, that little guy, Theo Riddick, and Abdullah, combination of them two, that's a 1-2 punch in the backfield. I don't know how long they're going to be utilized that way, but I do know for sure whatever Caldwell is doing, stick with it, my man, because it's working. Riddick is a quick little guy. He's short, he's compact, and Abdullah, more of a power guy. So when you got the combination of those two in the backfield, you never know what the Lions can stir up. They was really chewing up the run defense of the Indianapolis Colts. They was really beating them down. Detroit Lions was my sleeper against the Indianapolis Colts because I didn't think that the Lions was going to come into Indianapolis and beat them. You got Luck. You got all his offensive line healthy. The backfield is healthy. The wide receiving core is healthy. And they came on in there and they did their thing with them. I mean, what can I say? You know, Frank Gore, he just simply was not really utilizing the game the way he should have been utilizing the game because after all, he only had 14 carries for 59 yards, but he couldn't punch it into the end zone. But other than that, Luck just got to do a better job next time on utilizing Frank Gore more in the offense than what he did in game 1 because he pretty much was going to his wide receivers. And Dorsett, T.Y. Hilton, Moncrief, Allen, Doyle, who scored 2 touchdowns, the tight end. Moncrief, he scored 1. But all in all, it was a great game. It was a great game. My fantasy picks was not great.
Hey, man!
I mean, I didn't pick key players, but I hope you did. For those of you that picked Andrew Luck, he led the pack. Going into tonight's contest, he's up 35 points. So if you got Andrew Luck on your fantasy pick, you did a great job. Drew Brees, he had 30 points for New Orleans in the loss against Oakland. Alex Smith and Brandon Cooks from Kansas City and New Orleans. Alex Smith beat San Diego in overtime. He got 27 points. Brandon Cooks from New Orleans, the wide receiver, he got 27 points in the loss against Oakland. Stafford and Spencer Ware, both along with C.J. Anderson and Jameis Winston, each got 25 points. Matthew Stafford in the win versus Indy. Spencer Ware in the win in overtime against San Diego. C.J. Anderson in the win against Carolina to open up the NFL season. And Jameis Winston, who won against Atlanta. And then to round out the top 10, you have Matt Ryan, quarterback, as well as A.J. Green, wide receiver of Cincinnati. Matt Ryan in the loss to Tampa Bay, he has 24 points, as well as A.J. Green in the victory over the New York Giants. He also has 24 points. And for those that I didn't mention in the fantasy pick, well, all you got to do is just go to the website or go to DraftKings or wherever you're going to go to and look up the rest of it. But there's your top 10 right there going into tonight's contest between the two teams that are left on the board, which is all we're going to have left to round out week 1 of the NFL to open up the season. We're talking Pittsburgh going to Washington. That game is on ESPN. And don't miss, for those of us on the East Coast, the 10-20 game between the LA Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. I think that's going to be a good game too as well. LA is making their return back after 20-something years, and the fans are elated out there.
Where you from, fool?
I'm from Los Angeles area myself.
I know it is.
I'm not a Rams fan, but it's great to see a football team back in LA after so long. So it'll be real interesting to see what the Rams are going to do versus the 49ers in tonight's contest on the road in San Francisco. So be sure not to miss out those 2 games. I'll see you next time. Be sure to check out the show's Facebook page at the Scoop Talk Show /Facebook.com. You can find me on Twitter, also on LinkedIn, also on Tumblr, and all the other social media sites that's out there. Be sure to follow my blog at the Scoop Talk Show at blogspot.com. And also be sure to catch the podcast each and every day now that the Scoop Talk Show is back with the new podcast. Till next time, take care.